Hello, this is the Dime Piece Perfection Personified Aaron Rourke, and you are listening to the Three Count Podcast.
Do you wanna get live with me? Do you really wanna ride with me?
Welcome everybody to another great edition of the Three Count Podcast presents Now Entering, and I'm your host, Clifford Red Dog Miller, the man that leads you up that mountain called wrestling. And by season 4, our 340 something episode, I would just hope you say it with me. I am your Sherpa, because like your tribal chief, acknowledge me. But like every good Sherpa, you gotta have someone who's been there, done that, and can do it more efficiently than you can. That's why it's never about me. It's about who's entering. So who's entering the ring today? You can find this person at Cap. You can find this person at Limitless, WXW, PWH, H2O, Beyond, Grind, Wrestling Open, New South, and Rad Pro. He is the dime piece. He is perfection personified. He is one half of GBF. He is Aaron Rourke.
Hello, what a great introduction.
Hey, thanks. I try to work on those.
That was great. Checked
Yo,
everything.
so one of my favorite things is that like we met each other, I think it was like Water Everywhere, or maybe even at like that Wrestling Open. And like we had like an instant connection. Like I was like, yo, this is someone like I could just talk to and like hang out with and just like have fun, like having great conversations with you. So I was like very excited to get to meet someone like you, because like we have a lot of mutual acquaintances, and like we had never met. So like instantly when I met you, got the instant vibes. I was like, this is someone I could definitely kick it with a lot.
Aw, thanks, man. Yeah, I got the same vibe. It's fun to meet people in wrestling who generally are just a little more chiller, who are just like down to chit chat and whatever.
Yeah, definitely. One of my favorite things too is that like your journey is kind of like is very unique, right? Because like you're spearheading in in a field that a lot of people aren't in, right? But it's a growing community, right? And I mean that as in like the LGBTQ community, and that you're kind of spearheading into it and like leading the charge, right? With and there's other names out there, right? We could talk about Becca, we could talk about, Alex Kane, we could talk about Mr. Grimm, Effie, Ali Cash. There's a lot of people out there who are all putting out that community and pushing forward. So I guess where I really want to start with this conversation is like, what's it like being like one of the people at the forefront who is like help moving that bar further and further up the ladder?
Oh, well, I appreciate you thinking that I'm like pushing the bar and at the forefront. I appreciate that. Um, I would say it's inspiring. It's just like it's inspiring. It's really awesome to be a part of something and really trying to drive home like change and changing the way people look at queer wrestling and just wrestling in general involving the LGBTQ community. And I'm glad that it's more people are talking about it more. People are really trying to do something and change this business and show like what our community can do and how we shouldn't be marginalized for any reason. So it's a cool experience and it's a cool thing to be a part of.
It's one of those things because, like, for me, like, being Latino myself, I'm like trying to like put my stamp in the wrestling world and just push my inch and like elevating the community and like just showing that there's different people from all different types of backgrounds, and they don't all have to be like the luchador or a gangbanger or like the cartel leader, right? Like those are kind of like the typical people you think of when you're like, oh yeah, or the guy who sits in the back with his headband down past his eyes and is like, "Orale, qué pasó?" It's really fun to be like, so like for me, like I'm very like the outgoing, like kind of like mercenary, and I want people to be like, "Oh wow, like that dude doesn't look like your stereotypical Latin wrestler." And they're like, how does he fit in this world? And so just to be my extra piece. So I definitely love like watching how you are continually like growing and pushing, and then even like the fire ass matches that you guys are putting on, like the ones you did with Miracle Generation, you and Becca, like just tearing the house down. And I was like, wow, this is
Oh,
amazing to
thank you.
watch.
Thank you so much.
How did you so I guess I love asking this question because there's always a great answer and a great story behind it, but who is Aaron Rourke?
So Aaron was like the origin of my name, or it's just who is he?
Yeah. Who is Aaron Rourke?
Aaron Rourke. Well, I like to say he is pro wrestling's like Jekyll and Hyde. He's a multifaceted kind of guy. He's got many different types of personalities and faces. But at a baseline, he's very pompous, narcissistic, truly believes that his crap does not stink. And if it does stink, it's the best smelling crap you'll ever smell. He just really thinks he is all that. And I mean, he kind of backs it up every time. And then he has this sadistic, kind of sinister, crazier side that comes out in matches every now and then.
I think that's what like makes like beautiful characters is that you're when you're like you're genuine to who you are, right? 'Cause you really believe in like the character that you created, right? But more importantly, like that character is like an off branch of like you. And sometimes like great faces like make that character and people just want to relate to it and love to cheer it, right? But when you're a good heel and like people hate you and like I know there's those stories where people are like, yeah, man, I almost got stabbed outside of a bar. Like, cool. But when people genuinely understand, like, oh, he's just a character, but I really hate that character, like that is the best. Because they're like, I just can't I hate the fact that he makes me want to boo him, even though I do kind of like him.
No, I mean, it's the best part, you know? Being a natural bad guy is the best part. People just love to hate me too. It's so much fun.
Yeah, it is a lot of fun. I think of like people like, and we can talk about like an MJF, right? Who's like that kind of he just has that natural personality to have people who just like hate him. But more importantly, when you look at people like Razor Ramon, like he was always the bad guy. He never became a face. But people loved him, and then you thought he was the face, but he was still very much the heel.
Yeah, man, some people are just too bad to be good. But
Yeah,
you know, sometimes it doesn't even matter because they just love how bad you are.
yeah. How'd you find your way into the business?
I've been watching it since I was young, really young, and it's just something I always wanted to do, and I figured do it now while I'm in my 20s and just get ahead of it now. And yeah, I just looked up wrestling schools after I graduated college, and Creative Pro happened to be 7 minutes from my house at that time. So I went into history.
Nice. Yeah, we've had a few people from Creative Pro on the podcast, and every time I meet somebody from Creative Pro, it is such a unique experience from the one previous, right? Whether it's like a Jack Tomlinson or a Phil Cardigan, those guys are so much fun to be around and just like talk to.
I love Phil. Phil's my boy. I love Jack too, but Phil's my boy.
Phil is it was funny because like the first time I met Phil, we were at Invictus, it was an outdoor show, and even Stevens had just turned on him, right? Um,
Oh, boo.
yeah, and so what was so funny about it was I remember seeing Phil and I was like, "Yo, good match," right? And I was being genuine, and Phil turned to me and he goes, "You didn't watch," and just kept walking off. And I reminded him of that on an episode that we did together, and he was like, "Oh yeah, I totally forgot about that."
Yeah, Phil doesn't have like a good memory. Phil kind of forgets what he had for breakfast that morning. So
Yeah.
he probably was like super stunned.
Well, like his it's a question I'll ask you too, but when you get thrown over the top rope and you hit head first into the ground, and you get knocked out,
I
like
was there for that. I was there for that.
he was telling me, well, actually he brought it up on the podcast because just like his question, I'll ask you too. What was the worst bump you've taken?
Oh God. The worst bump I've ever took. I don't know. The first one that comes to mind was I did a chaotic wrestling reloaded taping once, and I wrestled Brad Cashew, and he gave me this like top rope spinning neck breaker where we both like went off the top rope, and he gave me a neck breaker, and I just landed like a pretzel. Like I landed like legs one way, body this way, like when you do like that stretch.
Yeah.
So it just like jacked my back up.
Mm.
No one's fault, but like mine for being dumb and getting and taking that from the top. But that one comes to mind. I mean, when I broke my ankle, that kind of sucked. Um, yeah, that neck breaker bump was scary.
I've told the story about mine on here a few times, but mine was uh, I was also being young and dumb, and I say young in the fact that I started pro wrestling in my 30s, in my mid 30s at that, and I wanted to try Kira Tozawa's like giant senton, and
Oof.
it was February, and our training facility is outdoors, and I jumped off the top rope, and that mat and that metal did not move, and yo, yeah, that was
Ouch.
painful, and
That sucks.
it was like my 3rd or 4th week of training. There was no reason to try this, and looking back, and I was
Oof.
like, "That was the dumbest idea."
No, that that just sounds like it sucks. Ugh.
Oh yeah, it was brutal.
I would have never made it
So
off the mat. They would have peeled
yeah,
me off. They would have swept me up at that point.
yeah, so my trainer looked at me and he was like, "Did we learn something?" I was like, "Yep. Don't ever do that again in the winter
Yeah.
or ever, 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 ever."
Yeah, it might be just an ever thing.
Yeah. It's crazy though because like I love taking like I love doing like good choke slam bumps. Like I love doing good dojo bumps. I really love doing those. And so like doing it off the top rope, I was like, "Yo, and I never did it before." So I was like, "Whatever, we'll just go all out." And I did, and it just completely sucked. And then it was funny because like a full year later, like I was like teaching kids in Maryland like how to do a dojo bump and land properly. And my trainer brought up that story, and I was like, "Well, if my trainer would have trained me on how to take this bump properly, I would have never sucked at it." We, hey, it's crazy because what I really enjoy is that you are not just a good singles wrestler, but you're an amazing tag team wrestler as well, right? And
Thanks.
you and Becca have like this cohesion that like is very rare to find in like tag teams. And I just want to know like what's the hardest part about being like in a good tag team?
Um, I think the hardest thing is probably just ooh, I don't know. I'm trying to formulate the answer. Um, I think listening to each other and hearing what each other has to say is probably the hardest. I think wrestlers or people just tend to run with their like ideas, thoughts, or like what they want to do, and they forget to take into account the other person. In a tag team, you just have to know that what you do affects your tag partner. So me and Becca were always conscious of making sure either of us were included or knew what was happening or knew what was going on just because we wanted to stay on the same page, and I think that's the most important thing. And I think also not trying to make your partner be something they're not. Try
Mm,
and allow them to find a way to mesh you two together and find the commonalities and the similarities. And I feel like that's what makes a good tag team is when it's two people who are individual yet similar.
yeah. No, I feel like there's a tag team. I put them over all the time because they're well, one, they're my boys, and I love them to death. But there's a group out of Maryland. They're called Pure Ignorance. But they've been together for like we'll say 3 years, 4 years now. I think going on 4 years on the pro level, and the rest of the time was in the dark arts. So they had like this cohesion that they mesh really well. And there's three of them. They all three like work really well together. Um, but yeah, I think that's the one thing that like I see with you two is that y'all have like this kinship and you're able to kind of communicate things without communicating those things. It's like it's like I
We've
said, it's very cool to watch.
we've also fought each other a bunch of times. So when you wrestle each other and kick the crap out of each other a bunch of times, you tend to get a read on what they do or what you're gonna do. You kind of know about your partner.
That's like good tag team. Hey, you know what? Good tag teams, they gotta fight each other every once in a while too. Just to show.
Exactly.
Uh,
Exactly.
what's one of the hardest lessons you've had to learn being in the business?
Oh, such heavy hitter questions. I feel like probably that wrestling is a marathon, not a sprint.
Mm,
Because I think in today we are so conditioned to when we want something to get it now. And just in wrestling in general, I think there's like a time crunch on things, but it's not always that person's time. I truly believe in like timing is everything. And with this business, it's a lot of the right place at the right time. And I think if you hold out and you keep pushing, you keep putting out consistent work, that you will be successful. But I wish somebody told me in the beginning, like, hey, if you don't feel like you're where you should be when you're 2 years in, that's totally fine because you're probably going to be farther than you could ever imagine. And to take things slow and enjoy them while you can, because you never know when it changes.
yeah. I feel like that's something that like I was grateful that I got into the business when I did, right? So I got in when I was like 34, getting ready to turn 35, and I was like I felt very grateful because I know 25-year-old Cliff would have definitely been like, but I've been doing this for like 4 years. Like, I've been grinding. Like, I've been working really hard. I should be getting these things. And 34-year-old Cliff is like, hey, man, we just here to enjoy the ride.
Yeah, you got to sit back and enjoy sometimes and just look at all you've done or will continue to do and just focus on that. If you're always looking at the glass half empty, then like what's the point?
Yeah, I 100% agree. I think it's one of those things where it's you like you said, right? You want to hurry up and wait. Like it's a thing that we say in the military a lot, right? Hurry up and wait. Hurry up and get to where you got to get there, and then just wait. Because if you don't have to get ready, if you stay ready, and so it's one of those things. That's like I feel like with wrestlers, like we and you hit it perfectly on the head. We treat everything like Amazon, right? Like oh I'm here today, I should be there tomorrow. Like no, not necessarily. Like you're still in square one, like, and it's fine. Like, just take your time. Like, I know when I uprooted and moved up to the Northeast, like I knew from the jump, like this was gonna be hard because like I have to restart everything that I've worked so hard in the Mid Atlantic up in the Northeast now. But the benefit of knowing that I'm not building out of scratch, but I'm rebuilding out of experience was such a crucial thing that I had to get through my system.
Yeah.
So let me ask you before we jump into my favorite part of the Three Count podcast. I need one do and one don't of the wrestling business.
One do and one don't.
Yeah.
My God. I need like examples.
Hey, full
I don't
transparency. When I asked this question the first time ever, somebody told me, obviously like the usuals. Do shake everybody's hands, right? Like, do wash your gear, right? Don't be an asshole, right? Those are things that like people tell me.
Okay, so there's a wide range of what the answers could be.
Yeah, 100%.
Okay, I feel like a do in wrestling is always give everything. This is so corny, but always give everything 100% because if it doesn't work out, you can always say, I gave it everything I have. So you can live life with a little less regret, knowing that you gave everything you had and it just wasn't the timing. A don't is don't say stuff you aren't prepared to say behind someone's back to someone's face.
Mm.
And I live by that. If I am going to say anything about anyone behind their back, it better be something I could say to their face.
I feel like that's very crucial because things that are said in the dark often come out in the light. And I don't think I've seen a bigger example then full transparency for you guys who are watching this right now, it is October 24th. When you see this episode, it will not be. But if you look through my timeline and October 23rd, you will see I have been very vocal about a certain thing that happened. And yeah, you guys will all know what I'm talking about. I don't need to say it here. It's not necessary. It would just be great to get it rehashed. But I will still stand true to what I said. Well, like even on my Twitter, right? That like sometimes like you just can't be shady in this business, right? Like you can think that you can be, and you might get away with it once, and you might even get away with it twice. Shit, you might get away with it 10 times. All it takes is one time to get caught, and once you're caught, that is it. You are off the board. And yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I always appreciate someone who at least stands in their crazy, stands in their truth.
Yeah.
Like if you're gonna say a whole bunch of mess, you might as well stand there and just own it.
Yeah. 100%. I feel like that's just like, if that's what you believe, hey yo, be on that hill. And at least you'll die with some dignity.
Hey, like you went down swinging. Good for you, boo. But we'll clean up mess on aisle 2, and we'll keep it pushing. Okay.
Exactly 100%. All right, bet. So I want to hop over to the best segment of the 3 Count Podcast, and that is the 3 Count Podcast 10 count questions. And Mr. Rourke, this is how it works. I'm gonna fire off 10 questions at you rapid fast, and whatever your answer is, that's your answer.
Okay. Damn. Okay.
So we're gonna put on the imaginary timer for added pressure.
No. Damn.
And in the words of my favorite color commentator, Mike Goldberg, here we go. SmackDown or Raw?
SmackDown.
Favorite cartoon?
Ed and Eddie.
Let's go. Caramel or chocolate?
Chocolate.
Favorite movie?
Oh God. Oh no. I don't know. The Super Mario movie.
It's a good one.
It's a good one. I love it.
Marvel or DC?
Since I really don't know about neither, I'll just go with Marvel.
And you know what? And that's perfectly fine.
Sorry, everyone.
Don't worry. You can find. He'll give you his sandals later. Favorite actor / actress?
Oh God. All of these are the men are gonna be based on looks because that's all I really care about when it comes to male actors. Chris Pine, because he's so nice to look at. But on a serious level, Bruce Willis in the Die Hard series. Love me some Bruce Willis. Female, probably Kristen Wiig.
Kristen Wiig is amazing.
I love her.
I was a massive fan of hers when she was on Saturday Night Live. I'm still a massive fan of hers. I'm going to be honest when I tell people this, and I'm going to stand in my truth. I'm going to die on this hill. I did not care for her as a Cheetora in Wonder Woman 1984. Did not care. Loved her main character. Loved the first part of the character. When she became Cheetora and she had like the weird CGI fur thing on, I was done. I was like, I don't care about this movie now. I was like, I'm good.
I was like, wait, she was in a Wonder Woman movie?
Yeah, she was in the second one.
Oh, okay. I didn't see it.
Yeah, we could talk about it offline. It's fine.
Okay.
Apple or Android?
Apple.
Favorite podcast?
Oh God. I don't listen to many podcasts, but I would have to go with Jenna and Julian had a podcast for a while. So I'm gonna go with Jenna Marbles and Julian podcast.
Okay. I like it. Nominate one person that you want to see on this podcast.
Either current Create a Pro TV champion Jake Lang or our president Nick.
Wait, was that last one again?
Nick Robles,
Oh, yeah, Nick definitely. Yeah.
our little rock
I
star
don't think
boy.
he low-key knows. Yeah, I don't think I don't think he knows, but low-key, like, I'm a fan of his. Like, just watching him work, I'm a big
He
fan of
is so good. He makes my heart very happy. He's so good. So
He's
proud
just
of him.
I love yeah, I love I love the rocker gimmick, and like his there's a lot of people who do like the rocker gimmick, but they just look corny. And Nick
You
like makes me believe that he is the front runner. He's the lead man of a 1980s rock band. Like I really believe him.
you know who you need on this, who I think this kid could have like maybe the best promo in the game right now in terms of the indies. And I'm biased because he's a cap student, but his name is Sebastian Amore. This kid is charismatic to the T. This kid is charisma. If you ever get him on this podcast, have him cut a promo
Mm,
or just talk to you. Best promo in the game, I think, personally.
but I can't wait. I can't wait. And then my last question I love asking every single person who comes on this podcast. Favorite curse word.
Oh no. It's gonna get me canceled. You have to bleep it.
Okay.
It's see you next Tuesday.
Oh, we're good with that. We've had that word said on here numerous times by
Well,
way other people.
I just
I
didn't want to come out there and
get
say
that.
cunt. Like
Yeah, no, I definitely, yeah. For those who are wondering, the first time it was actually said on the show was episode 300, so you guys can go check it out when it was
oh
first said
good.
because it was hilarious what happened.
Who said it?
Uh, Flip Gordon. He
Of
had just
There was
he
no way that you just said Flip Gordon.
Yeah, he was actually our 300th guest.
Oh
He had
my
just came back
god.
from the UK, and yeah, he said it.
Of course. Flip Gordon is some other kind of human. I love him. He cracks my shit up, but he's something else. Of course he'd be the person to say it on the 300th show.
Yeah.
Says cunt.
Oh man. But those are all my questions I do have for you. So the last thing I just need to do is let our listeners and our viewers know where they can find you.
You guys can find me on Twitter and Instagram at PerfectAaron1, same handlebar or username, whatever it's called. You can find my merch at prowrestlingtees.com/arourke1. And you can generally find me anywhere, slaying and kicking ass and being the most perfect person to ever grace the independent wrestling scene, as per usual. And just thank you for having me on.
Of course. And that wraps up all the questions I have. This is a I love this conversation, by the way. I was when the moment that we talked and I was like, yo, we about to bring him on. I was low key. I was like, I've been hyped about this. But
Aw,
you know,
thanks. I had a great time, dude. Thank you so much.
but like every great part of a wrestling match, we gotta take this home because this is the 3 Count Podcast presents Now Entering, and I'm your host Clifford Red Dog, the man that leads you up that mountain called wrestling. And like I said, after season 4, 300 something episode, it's not about me, it's about who's entering. So who's entering? You see him right there. He's a dime piece, Aaron Rourke. And you guys know what to do. Tune into the next episode and be there, or you're legitimately following us on all of our social media platforms, which is right here up above. You're following us on, you're subscribed to our YouTube channel, you're following us on Spotify, you're even listening to us on Amazon Music or iHeartRadio, because for some reason I think that's the jingle. You're buying all of our merch on prowrestlingtees.com. You're even checking us out on foryourwear.com. You're telling all your friends about us, you're telling your enemies about us, you're telling your dogs about us, you're telling your parents about us, you're even telling that Aunt Edna about us too, because she doesn't like to listen to anything that's podcast related. You're doing all that stuff where you're really just kind of waiting for that intro or that outro. You're waiting for this episode to finish, and then you're just choosing another episode to listen to. Kawaii.
What's going on? It is Clipper Red Dog Miller, the man that leads you up that mountain called wrestling. And what we need from you guys is just kind of show some support, right? We want you guys to go to our YouTube channel at the 3 Count Podcast, go on to our Twitch channel, 3 Count Pod, or even our Facebook page, 3 Count Podcast, and just give us a like, follow, subscribe, even give us a comment, right? Do all that cool stuff. Share it with your friends, share it with your family, share it with your enemies, right? Or you can even come talk to us and just chat us up, right? Find us on Twitter at 3count_pod. Find us on IG and on TikTok at 3 Count Pod. Go ahead and leave us those comments. We want to hear from all of you guys. We're going to keep putting on videos and stuff like that. We want to keep making this content better, so we want your guys' support. Also, if you guys want to, go support us at prowrestlingtees.com/the 3 Count Podcast, or even find us on foryourwear.com. Give us the support. Show us your guys' love, because we want to give it right back to y'all. So, in the meantime, between time, love y'all.